And the connection has started.
All right.
Good evening, Paige.
Good evening. Helmut, how are you?
Excited and really, really good. What about you?
I'm doing well today. It's a good day to be a domain investor.
Awesome. Paige, how do you
Anybody else having a good day out there watching us?
Okay, so we will see. So the people will start.
Oh, we're going to do that next. Okay.
Yes, people will start connecting, and they will see. So at the moment we have one live viewer, and slowly they will be pulling in. Yes. So good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, or good morning, depending on the place you are. 27.be live streams have started, and the very, very first guest is one of the most positive, I would say, the most positive domain industry veteran and an investor, Paige Howe. Good evening.
Hello, Helmut.
Paige, do you remember the first domain name you bought?
I do. It was in, I think, 1997, and I wish I could say I bought a 2-letter, and and it would be awesome. But I was doing a lot of stock market work, and the movie Wall Street had come out, and there's a scene in the movie Wall Street where one of the key characters calls into the equivalent of the Wall Street Journal, and they made up a name, and he gives them this code word that says Blue Horseshoe loves Anacott Steel, and Anacott Steel was a stock that the key character was going to start buying stock in, and he wanted to kind of get the word out for everyone else to start buying stock in it. So that was his code word. Blue Horseshoe loves Anacott Steel. And so as I looked at doing a stock research and recommendation site, I thought, wow, wouldn't bluehorseshoe.com be a fantastic thing? Because everybody in the stock market world had seen the movie and would recognize that. And so I went and I called Network Solutions, or I went on the site Network Solutions, and I got bluehorseshoe.com. And at the time, they would reserve it for you, and there was a $35 a year charge, so that's $70. And then I think there was a $40 charge to set up an account, so that was $110. And they would mail you an invoice that you would then receive and maybe send back a check, or you'd fill it out with your credit card number. So you had reserved the name up front, and then you'd send that in. And so I had bluehorseshoe.com. And sure enough, over the next 3 or 4 years, as I would call companies, like during the first internet bubble, and I'd say, hi, this is Paige Howe from bluehorseshoe.com. Oh, that's a cool name. Oh, I love that movie. And so, it really proved out to me the value of a good domain name, because I made it my company name, and it gave me that initial boost, or that initial something to talk about before you just get into the why are you calling or what do you want. And so it always gave me that little thing to talk about. And then I got to inherit the power, in essence, of the global awareness, well, not global, more U.S. awareness, as the movie went around the world, of bluehorseshoe.com. So that was probably my first one. I had some other investments at the time. I worked for a family office that had some investments in different companies, and I went ahead and got the domain names for those companies. So that was probably my start. And that's probably about all I did, is get some related company domain names from 97 until 99.
Do you still hold the name?
I don't. I think I sold it, but I hadn't used it for 5 or 6 years. And hopefully I sold it. There's always a chance I let it drop. But anyway, it became less a part of my life, but it's always my first love. So.
And at the moment, you mentioned that you hold how many domains?
Oh, no, we don't like to kiss and tell, but it's probably about 6,500 names. And I'm probably down from maybe as many as 30,000 6 or 7 years ago. So become much more focused, not carrying as high of a renewals because of the competition in our space. So about 6,500.
So now 6,500, so 6,500. And before that, like a couple of years ago or more, you had 30,000.
Yeah, that was probably my high mark.
That's 300K in renewals. Or
Yeah.
then the
Oh
renewals
no,
were
no, 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 no. It's $8 a name. So that's 240K.
oh,
It cost me
my
60K.
apologies.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's no doubt. I moved when I had sold my two big names for millions of dollars. I could have kept going in that space, and I did with a couple names. But then I also saw, I thought at that time there would be a lot more opportunity in my company, Joe Domains, which was Joe Domains, domain names for the average Joe, with the idea that we'd have thousands of people building websites. And so I tried to put myself to have inventory in the places I thought people would build websites. And then I was combining the domain name with a website builder, and then they could pick what level of service they wanted. And so it's a lot what actually happened, with website building companies like Wix and Weebly, is people needed that second step. But, those guys were giving it to them for free. I wanted to charge them for it. So yeah, it was a change in my business model to get that big. And as long as I was selling enough names to pay the renewals, it was great. But it was really the increase in new players and new entrants from maybe 2012 to 2015, where I knew I had to reduce the names I own.
Wow. And how did you keep an eye on them?
Well, the most vital thing to me as a domain investor is an Excel spreadsheet that I keep that has every name that I own. And
okay,
the reason I do that is I don't know what's missing unless I know what I own. And so I'm the only one that cares if that data is correct. And as much as you can download your list of what you own at each registrar, and each registrar probably wants you to own all their names at their company, because they can just say, well, the way to organize your names is own them all at our company. But I wanted to be diversified. And I knew that only I would know. So each month, or maybe twice a month, I run at each registrar a comparison of the names I think I have and the names that are there. Because between the new requirements, new WHOIS requirements, bad data, a transfer not going through, a name selling somewhere, or someone hacking my account, if a name disappeared, I may not know for a year or two. And so for me, I had to know. So I keep an update when I buy a name. I put in the cost. I put in the day I buy it. I put in the expiration date. I categorize the name. So if someone ever says, hey, Paige, do you have any sports names? I can just take my spreadsheet, sort it by my sports category, and I've got a quick look at all my sports names.
Okay.
Most of the data, most of the exchanges will let you search the word sports, but that's not going to pick up football or basketball or lacrosse or something, esports or something like that. So for me, I've got to have the categories to know. And my categories sometimes can be the subject matter, like green or crypto or sports, and they can also be the purpose of the name is the second column I have. Is it a product? Is it a service? Is it a blog or forum name, what I call a purpose name? Is the main quality of that name that it's short? Is it a 4-letter or a 4-number or something like that? And I want to be able to pull those up quickly. So I have different columns. And then it also tells me when I list my names at Sadu and Afternic and Unstoppable, I have columns for that. So I know if my prices are the same. So really that's, it's great to manage digital property. I don't have a warehouse. I don't have shelves and shelves and shelves
of
SKUs and product inventories. But to say that I could manage my inventory without any effort, I think is a false hope. And so when I'm working on my database, I just treat that like I'm walking around my floor of my shop with all my inventory. Except what's neat about it is with an Excel spreadsheet, I can sort it all kinds of ways. It'd be like sitting there and saying, you know what? Take all my inventory, if it was physical inventory, and sort it by price, high to low. And I can do that like that. And I can see what are my most valuable names, or low to high, or what's expiring soon. So I manage it with an Excel spreadsheet that I keep on my own.
And you still do that?
Yes, it's funny because different things happen over the years. Like right now, next year or this year is a leap year. And so what's funny is I have to change my system because normally when I renew a name, it adds 365 days to the registration. But some registrars add 365 days, but most of them keep the same end date next year, which is actually 366 days. So this is a really minute thing, you know what I mean? But it's something where when I'm managing them, then I've been through enough leap years to kind of know when this comes and it's not a surprise. So for me, I've got to have that. I've got to know what I own to be able to merchandise it, market it, and make sure that it's selling. Because say the rumor that you could sell 1 to 2% of your names was actually true. That's based upon you optimizing at each of the marketplaces, the parking companies, and all that stuff, having your names for sale. So if you don't update the name servers on newly acquired names for 3 months, you've just lost 25% of the chance that someone could contact you through the landing page. So you're gonna even in a good world that your names were worth being sold 1 to 2% of your portfolio, you've just cut yourself off there. And if you have them at Afternic, but you don't have them at Sadu, or if you have them at Sadu and not Afternic, you've cut yourself. You've cut your ceiling of what could possibly happen. So for me, I've got to be able to keep track of it. And that's there used to be a commercial here in the USA a long time ago. This is me as the OG domainer going back so many years, where they had a guy in the Army and he would say, "Be all you can be." And there was a spoof of it where they said, "Be all you can be," and instead of crashing the beach or doing something heroic, it was different military people, swabbing the decks or cleaning the bathrooms or something like that. And there is some of that work in domaining. And you just have to be willing, to do it and say, yeah, this is the job we have chosen. So you got to keep track of your names.
And you mentioned that your accounts could be hacked or have been hacked. And then a name or two might get
Fortunately, I have never been, knock wood, I don't believe I've ever been absolutely hacked. Maybe 1 or 2 situations. What's more important is that if the companies I work with, the registrars and the marketplaces systems, don't interact correctly, they can have an oops. And if I wait until there's nothing I can do about it, it doesn't matter if they say, "Hey, Paige, we're really sorry. We don't know how it happened. Boy, you just discovered a new thing that we never knew could happen." You know what I mean? But if the name's been dropped and has been registered by someone else, there's nothing you can do. So I have to be able to somewhat stay on top of it. And the only protection we have against losing a name is this redemption period, which is a 30-day period when the name's going to go dark. This is a name that somehow you didn't renew and you didn't know about it. And so the registrars and even the governing body, ICANN, is assuming you'd know if something happened to your name for 30 days. Now, if you're a company that only has one name, then yeah, you'd know your website was down. But if you're a domain investor and you've got 400 or 600 or 800 or 1,000, unless you use one of the monitoring programs, which I'd like to, I think, you've got to stay on top of it to know if it's gone.
And how many emails do you get a day, approximately?
In total?
I have to be honest, I hate emails.
I love them.
I get so many of them that at some point,
I love
them.
Every email could be a sale, Helmut.
Okay.
If the cost of doing business as a domain investor is that you get a lot of emails, no problem. In fact, if I go to my spam folder,
okay,
there's no better way to find out what subjects are monetizing online than to go to your spam folder. Because those people are only sending out spam.
They copywriting
mortgage refinancing, insurance. Now, there's a lot of adult stuff there that's not rated for kids, whatever. But it does show you what people are doing bulk marketing for. How are they monetizing that? And so that's one of the reasons, and we'll talk about this later. I think that the emoji domains have such a positive thing. Is sometimes the adult industries and the dating industries lead the creativity, you know what I mean, in terms of techniques. And believe me, if I go in my spam folder, all I'm going to see is emoji, 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 emoji. Now, some of them are kind of tricky to figure out, but I mean, it's one of the things that tells me that, hey, they're not using them because they're dumb. They're all about metrics and data, and they're saying that this somehow works, and because it works, we're going to include it in our bulk mail, and so you can learn something from it. So, hey, it would be perfect if every email we got was only good emails and intended for us, but hey, if that's the cost of doing business, I can handle it.
Emojis. What is your favorite emoji? Like the one that improves your click-through rate or open rates or something?
You
should have.
Well, I'm not doing it. The one I see the most is I see the $sign a lot. Okay. I see the 100 a lot. I see the 100%, I see the prayer a lot. And there's a lot of them. I even see some. Well, which ones? I see them. I see a lot of them a lot. But you think about some different applications for them, like the archery target. If someone's saying, we're on target, or meet your targets or meet your prospects. So it's interesting how the objects can convey something more than you can convey in a group of words, instantly. So, if I go to my email here. Let's see if we can't put this to work. I'll go to my spam folder. Yes. Oh, that's right. I have to hit click screen. Okay.
And good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, or good morning. The main industry is like tennis, like the big tennis world. On the top of the tennis world, there are only like a couple hundred people. That's it. Everybody else is just a dust history. And today we have Howe. He is in the elite of the domain industry, and you can ask him your questions.
And right. Can you see my screen now?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so here you've got a bunch of inappropriate ones, but you've got people using the I'll blow it up here. Hold on. You've got people using the arrow. You got people using the sparklers, the hearts, the kisses, the hearts. So I mean, that's just one way that kind of tells me. I'll get me out of that. Let's see if I can practice doing this. Now I go to top screen. There we go. All right.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So, how many emoji domain names have you got?
None. Emoji domain names are terrible. They're terrible.
Come on, they're absolutely
awesome. You guys don't want to buy them. Don't buy any of them. They're never going to work.
Leave them
for complicated, and you shouldn't buy them. You shouldn't bid against me in auctions to buy them. I have hundreds.
They are cheap.
Not really. They're about $22 a year to renew. You can get them for. Used to be able to get them for $5 at GoDaddy.
Yes.
And now I think GoDaddy's gone to 10. You can still get them at Domain Cost Club, which is a great registrar, for 5. And then the premium names, single characters, they probably are cheap for now, because people are still trying to figure it out. So.
And which ones have you got? Which ones have you got? The top ones.
I've got the $sign. I've got the.
Just the flying bunny.
What's that?
Just a flying bunny?
No, it looks like a $sign. It's the $sign with the thing through it. Yeah.
Okay. And then dot, and then it goes to dot what?
Right now, I just have it on a landing page. I'll show you. You want to learn a little about emoji domain names?
Okay. Absolutely. I know that you are deep into LA, that you are deep into emojis.
Let's do emojis.
There are so many things we can touch.
This is the thing that makes emojis domain names different. People consume and use emojis on their phone, but domain investors and domain companies work on their laptop and their desktop.
Yep.
So when you're managing emoji domain names, you do it on your desktop or your laptop, but people use them on their phone. So I would rather have something that people use on their phone that's a little bit tricky to do on your laptop, because this is where the future is. and this is where the world is, right? So the thing to remember about emoji domain names is that there's only certain domain names that have been approved to be emoji domain names under this group called the Unicode Consortium. And what that means is when I go on my phone and I hit the little button on my keyboard, I have my letters, and then I have a button for the emoji.
Absolutely.
Now there's everyone that has a phone in the world generally has the same set of emoji on their phone. So it's just like an alphabet that has about 1,200 letters. Now you can download different fonts that make emojis all look like there's an LA font where they all look like they're in Los Angeles, or people can make up emojis, but that's nothing more than images, just a series of images. What we're talking about here with emojis is the same emojis that are on my phone and my device are on all the world's device. So if someone is on their browser bar, and I just put the pepper one in here, and they type in the pepper, they go to their browser bar, try to put that up there, just picture the browser bar up there.
Yes.
And then they hit the emoji button, and then all their emojis pop up, and say they hit the pepper, and then they go to .ws. So emoji domains aren't allowed in .com. There is about 20 that were grandfathered from a long time ago. So .ws is the market leader for emoji domain names. I would guess maybe 90% of paid market share. There's one place that gives names out for free, and they have some, but their whole purpose is to give it to you free so you'll pay for the renewal. But that's that TK or whatever. Anyway, so WS, in my opinion, is the .com of emoji domain names. So you type that in, you type in the thing, and then you go, and then you search. And what it does is it comes to my web page, which is just a for sale page that has the emoji on it. So I'll do it on my desktop now. I'm going to share screen here.
And that was
the pepper.ws.
That was pepper.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Is it easy to find? How easy?
It's under food. It should be about on the first row.
Okay, let us see. So the foods. Oh, good evening, everybody. Yes, you are most welcome to ask your questions. We'll probably get to them at some point. And the food, I've always, okay, so the red pepper, and then I have to switch back and .ws. Let us see, ftmarket.com. And
that's my landing page that says that domain name's for sale. And if you look at the top of that, instead of, sometimes you see the pepper, and sometimes you see what's called a puny code, which is a representation of that domain name. Now, do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a site called Punicoder. And if anyone out there is familiar with IDNs, internationalized domain names, where you can have domain names in the natural language of your country. So whether it's a Slavic language, it's a Arabic language, it's a Japanese language, a Chinese language, they take those characters and they transform them into a ASCII domain name. And what they do is it begins with the letters XN and then dash, and then it has a code. And that's the way that that domain name, even though it's in a different language, can still connect with every device globally, every router, every browser, every social media network, and everything like that, as it converts the domain name into something that the internet can use. An emoji are a language, and they have their own Punicode system, just like Arabic or Chinese or Japanese. So at this site called punicoder.com, oh, whoops, I put it in the wrong side. Hold on. I put in the actual emojis here on the left, and then it turns them into a domain name. So that single pepper.ws, that's the way you interact on your phone, but the way the whole internet sees it is xn-zh8h.ws. So now it's a regular domain name that can be bought and sold and transferred and held in your account. So when you're doing administrative work for your emoji domain name, you're using the Punycode or the XN. But when people are finding it on the web, or you're putting it as a link in a social media message, or more importantly, this is so important, the text, when you're putting it in text, you're putting in the pepper, and that's not just a picture of a pepper. That's actually your computer seeing that that is, for lack of a better word, a letter like A, B, C, D, E. And it can handle it. You know what I mean? It can handle it. .ws, and then a lot of times the social media network will automatically make that a link, and people can click it and they'll go straight away. And that's different than having to highlight it and link to an image somewhere. So the key thing to remember is emojis are actually a language. Each one of the emoji is handled the same way as a letter is normally, or IDNs globally. So it doesn't matter if you put in the Punycode or the redpepper.ws, you'll still get to the same website.
And I did see that the pricing for that pepper is $1,850.
Yep. I give you a couple $100 off. Yeah, so right now I probably sell a lot of my single characters between $1,000 and $2,000. And I know that's not what they're worth. I know that's not what they're worth. They're either worth a lot less if emojis never take off, or they're worth a lot more if you could literally get one person in the globe who owns the pepper.ws.
That is an ultimate ego thing, to own your own emoji.
Absolutely.
Come on.
It's like owning a letter. And so right now, one of the biggest use cases for emojis is just people, technical people, designers, coders, that maybe you're doing a presentation at a conference and you just want to sign off, and on your contact me, you say, my homepage is, zombierobot.ws. And again, it's just something to keep the conversation going and to kind of brand yourself. You're branding yourself with something that's on every smartphone around the world. It's the second most popular language in almost every country. So if I wanted to market globally a hot sauce, I wouldn't have to translate the name of my company around the world. It would be the pepper emoji.ws in every country.
That's it.
Now, when I try to speak an emoji, it's very difficult because I have to know the name of it. Hot pepper. Some people may call it the red pepper. But emojis weren't made to be spoken to each other. They were made to go, hey, you want to go out to dinner tonight? Let's go get some Mexican food. Pepper, pepper. And that conveys everything you want to convey. So I didn't have to speak it. I thought it, and I put it on my smartphone. So to process it, when you see it on a smartphone, you see it and you process it. And you didn't have to go through speaking it as you do with all other domain names and ASCII characters and words. So to me, you can tell I'm kind of amped up about it. I look at this and I look at 350 million names that are in black and white ASCII characters. And I look at thousands maybe that have been done. Still a lot that are in color, graphical, they're pictures.
Yep, they're visual.
It's not just a red A, but it's a picture. It's emotional. It's conveying more. You couldn't wrap up slightly amused, but not really in one letter. You know what I mean? It's more adopted by the youth. It's more adopted probably by women and girls than men. Not a market that has been traditionally as strong in domain names, I'll just say, and it's global, and it's more the future, and it's mobile instead of desktop. So that's what got me excited about emoji domain names. And people say, well, they're not working yet. I only want to invest in them when they're working. Well, who does it? Who does it? But when they're working, and you're talking about buying singular character domain name that's a single emoji, that's kind of where I'm betting. Now, I have a lot of two characters. I have like the home and the pizza for pizza delivery, the pizza and the football. I have a lot of doubles because if you think about it, when you're poised to write an emoji, like even the red pepper, it's not hard to go pepper, 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 happy, happy, happy. Some of them people aren't even used to seeing as a single emoji. If it's kissy face, you're going to usually give it two or three hearts. You know what I mean? And you're not having to bounce around to find a second one. So I have a lot of 2 character and 3 character, especially the 3 character. There's just something about it where like the 2 characters are good for like, I think I have the Chinese food box. I think I have tickets, like tickets to a show. So tickets for 2, that makes sense. You know, you're going to get tickets for a show or a movie. But for some reason, the 3, like I have the 3 sunglasses, which is not only am I cool, I'm super cool. I'm cool, cool. So the 3 is kind of interesting. So that's where I've kind of, stake my claim. But I've also got to sell some of these, and that's why even though some emojis are out there, single characters for 50,000, 25,000, I want to get them in the hands of people that can use them and market them. I sold the cricket emoji, not the insect, but the sport, to a commentator in Australia. And so I know that whether he just uses it as his personal site or he starts doing some of his, whatever he does, at least that's gotten in the hand of someone that's a commentator on cricket. And so
he's a cricket commentator, and he has got that cricket player .ws.
He's actually got. Is there a stick for cricket? I know I'm using the wrong word.
Yes, they've got this thing. Blank.
Yeah, so he's got whatever that is. Yeah, so and so sometimes there's different ones. So, and the other thing is, I have wonderful conversations with customers. If you think one of the things we're terrible at in the domain industry is talking to customers for repeat business, because most of the time they just needed one domain name, they got it, and they're gone. But if you were a stockbroker, you would follow up with your customer. How's it going? How's your year going? Things going well? Can I answer any questions? And so for me, if I am talking to people and you're like, well, what am I going to pull out of the bag? Hey, what about those 4-letter domain names? UXPQ is a real winner, Maybe that starts a conversation, maybe it doesn't. But if I talk about emoji domain names, it's pretty interesting.
And what about the flags? Have you got any flags?
Got a couple.
Okay.
I was trying to find the Latvian one for you.
I did see.
I know you do your work.
It was available for a while.
It was available for a while. It actually expires in February. And I kept thinking I had it, and I kept going, do I just not know that I have it? And so, but anyway, I always thought, what's that?
Go on. Yes, flags are.
I always thought that that'd be a great way to build a community around. I got a friend of mine has the USA flag, and he's got really, really high hopes for that one. And so I think I have sold United Kingdom. I think I have Australia still. I think I have
single emoji Australian
flag.
God, what's the price?
I probably sold it for I can't say because I know who bought it.
Go on.
It wasn't as much as you think. It was probably 2,000 to 3,000 or something like that. So like you say, it's not worth what I'm telling you for it. It's not worth. But if you want to buy some, come on down. But I think if I look around, where do I have the ability to quintuple my money? Make 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times my money. Yes. It may or may not happen. But is the same opportunity exist in bestesportsplayers.com, which could be a great name. I could buy it for reg fee at $9. Maybe someone will pay me $4,000, maybe not. But there's 150 million .coms registered. So anyway, it's one of the things I'm doing. So what you'll see this year is I'm gonna bring back my blog. I'm gonna post a lot of use cases of people that are using their emoji in different ways. Try to build some community around it, explain it, because people, you can tell them and they just don't get it. But when they get it, they really get it. And then investors only want to buy what's a sure thing. So they're like, show me that everyone's buying emoji domain names, and then I'll buy them. And I think that's an okay strategy. There's a lot of people that are really good at money management. I'm going to move the sun off my face here. And so they would rather buy something that's proven and they can just use their financial capability to buy the best at a discounted price because someone needs liquidity. So I'm fine with that. But I've been better sometimes as a buy and hold, set my chess pieces on the table, allow the game to be played, and see how I do. So I think emojis are never going to work until they do. And when they do, I think everyone's going to look back and go, how did we miss this? You know what I mean? How did we miss it? But people need to see. They can't dream it. They need to see it. So, just like four-letter names. Four-letter names took 4 or 5 years to build up to the liquidity that they had in 2016, 2017. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of doubters. In the stock market, they call it climbing the wall of worry.
Yes.
But in these emoji domain names, when the single rare ones go away, they're gone. And once someone falls in love with them, it's not about money. Now, if you offered them $200,000, they'd probably like it. But if they've always equated themselves with either one of the characters of the Chinese New Year, or an animal, or an expression, or a face, or the beach, or something, the plane, and you're a pilot and you've got the plane.ws.
That's it. You can put it on your business card, and
it's going to be hard to get it away from them. So, but the biggest questions I get are, it must be impossible to think of all the emoji domains you can register. But it's not, because the only real emoji domains are when the emoji's been approved by Unicode as an official one that's going to be on everyone's smartphone, everyone's social network. They're all using the same list. And that list grows each year. They add about 40 or 50 each year. So it's an alphabet that's growing. And it takes a while when they announce the new ones, and then they get approved, and then they come out. And so, again, it's not like anything else out there. And for a lot of people, this is a pet peeve I have with the domain industry. The guys that bought those names back in 94 and 95 and 96, it wasn't a sure thing that they were going to work. You know what I mean? They took a big risk. But now a lot of people are like, that had done that and made a bunch of money. Like, I'm not doing anything new. On the flip side, I've invested in a lot of new junk. I invested in WS like 15 years ago, thinking it was going to be the next .com. I invested in virtual property. I invested in Weeblo or something that was like a virtual world where you bought online digital capitals. There's a lot of digital. And with all that, somehow I missed Bitcoin. I think I bought it when it was like $89 a share, $89 a Bitcoin. I sold it at 1,000. I sold it at 1,000, and I said, "This is nonsense." And I only left the currency on the table. But we'll see if I'm right or wrong. If someone's watching this video and it's 2021 or 2022, it'll be interesting to see how I look then.
How do you price your domain names?
That's a great question. I make it up.
Just out of the thin air? You definitely have some experience and knowledge on approaches.
Well, there's no doubt that the quality components of a domain name that are more proven and liquid are going to produce a higher price. There's no doubt that the market that you're in is going to produce a higher price. If I have engagementrings.com, I've got an average selling price of $2,000 to $10,000 to $20,000. If I have keycups.com, where the average selling price may be $15, so I mean, there's obvious things that come into play when you're pricing a domain name, but we're just making them up. And I think this is what I try to tell buyers.
Okay.
When you pay a price, I really want to get this sun out of the way here. Let's see. How's that? When you buy a domain name and you're paying $500, $5,000, but especially when you're paying $50,000 or $100,000 or $300,000, there's no book that you look up to say this domain's worth that. And everyone gets worried and is overtaken by fear that they're paying too much. But someone that really knows what they're doing with a domain name, I could be incredibly low with my guess because I just imagined what I think the domain name's worth. So say I had cricket.com, the sport.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's a sport. It's popular around the world, I've heard, but I really don't know. So I'll price it at 150,000. I just made that up. You know what I mean?
That's it.
So a buyer that has a global cricket network or is a travel company or uniforms or whatever, they know how much money they spend on marketing a year. They know how much money it's worth to them, to own a domain name. So they're more likely to say, sure, I'll take it.
Is that the same how you decided the price will be for the guy.com?
So that's a good question. So for guy.com, yes. When I bought it, it was for sale for quite a while at Seidu, and they wanted 150,000 for it. And they had a lot of offers, but everyone was trying to get it for 110, for 120, for 125, for payments, or how low will you go? They would ask the broker, what's the lowest the seller will take, right? And I understand that's smart. But if you think that you're buying a domain name that can be worth 10 times its price, you buy it now. Because the seller can't go back on it. If there's a buy it now on a big time domain name and you like the price, buy it. Because the seller can't go back on it.
So you bought it for 150,000
potentially
USD.
Potentially. And then I said to the broker I bought it through, who was a good friend of mine and one of the best guys at Seidu ever, I'll say, you know what I mean? I said, put it for sale for $1 million right now. Buy it now. The day I got it, list it.
So it stayed at the same place?
Yep. Seidu. Right now, $1 million. Got an email. Your name is just sold for $1 million. Bang. I was fortunate.
And it took only.
It was the Lord blessed me with that sale. It was His providence. It happened, but it was also the very beginning of what we saw in the next 7 or 8 years, where not only 3 letters were popular, but single words were popular. So here you had a single letter. I mean, a 3-letter. Sorry, not single letter. I got my emojis on the brain. A 3-letter, which became the most popular domain name trend ever in the next 5 to 7 years after I sold it. It's a dictionary word, which was and still is maybe the most popular trend. And then just like in seniors, which represented maybe 25% of the world's population, based upon demographics and everything, with Guy, you had 50% of the world's population.
Absolutely.
One domain name.
Bang.
So for me, it was a chance to duplicate seniors. And it worked out great.
And the story about that?
What's that?
And the story about that?
Oh, seniors?
Yes.
Funny, when you ask about seniors, it got me thinking, could I duplicate seniors again today? And so I went back and did the same thing I did when I bought seniors. And I only spent about 45 minutes doing it. So I haven't found any seniors.com I can buy right now. But I had managed a kind of a private hedge fund during the internet bubble. And when all the internet stocks went up and up and up, I thought I was worth, 30, 40 million bucks, my partners and I. And then we had one of the biggest search engines at the time called Northern Light. And they were supposed to go public.
Okay.
And they were going to be worth $1 billion. And they just missed the window of going public, you know what I mean, where they were late. And then when you're late, you can never get out. And then they needed to raise money. So we ended up losing everything in that investment. So we had a little bit of money left. I was doing my .kids domain name business. And I used to look on eBay every 2 weeks for domain names. And I would search high to low. And when you search high to low, you see a lot of people that have terrible domain names, so they put them for sale for $1 million or $5 million. So you got to go through a lot of frogs, before you find the prince. But I saw there a listing because there are no ways to get out of a domain name. You're a company, in this case, the company had raised $3 or $4 million, tried to build seniors.com, couldn't do it. Very typical of those days, they were left with the lease. Someone had guaranteed the lease probably. So they had to sell the company assets to pay off the lease. One of the reasons WeWork is so popular now is people are still scared about that, about signing a long-term 5-year lease, company goes under, someone's stuck with it. Anyway, that's an aside. But so they had a buy it now price on it. I ended up negotiating it down, and took a while from when I originally saw it listed to finally buy it months later. But my folks were seniors at the time. Me trying to explain to them the internet was difficult, but I was good at it, I thought. So I thought I can have a site for all seniors, senior medical products, senior financial products, senior real estate products, senior dating, senior equipment, and the baby boomers would be coming right at me, and that this would be a great business to run. And I still think it is. I would do it again today if I wasn't doing 6,500 other names. But and so when I started going to the domain conferences, I'm sorry about that. It was one call I'm waiting for.
Oh, that's fine.
I would start sharing my best domain name, seniors.com. And so some people were high in it, some people were low on it, but I was able to put myself in a position through the help of some other domainers who I met who showed me how to monetize it. I was able to monetize it with parking income, which gave me the staying power to develop it, threaten to develop, identified the market opportunity. And the more I saw the market opportunity, the more my price in my head kept going up and up and up. So it went from being hundreds of thousands, a $500,000 domain name, to an $800,000 domain name, to $1 million domain name. And then it was like, well, if I'm going to sell it and I want to put it in auction, Monty Hahn, who's, in my opinion, kind of started the whole domain industry, remarketing domains. I mean, there's a lot of people who contributed, but Monty did a great job. And he said, we're having the primo #1 best names auction in New York City, the capital, Madison Avenue marketing. This is the place to put the best domain names in the world to sell.
The best of the best, okay?
And that's why I said, I've got to have seniors in there. So I put it in, put a high price on it. It got bid up a little more, and I sold it there at the auction. And so I've got a book that I've written on domain names. I've never published it, but that's the first chapter, is A Day in New York. And it just kind of goes through the process of me sitting there and watching the domain name sold. And I had to step out and kind of have a moment. And I had a couple, again, good friends of mine that stopped by and checked in on me. But one of the amazing things, and for all the viewers that are watching this now and in the future, a veteran domain investor from New York, upstate New York, and he was at the show, and we were having the last day's breakfast. So it's kind of an afterglow. The big auction has happened, all the content's happened. Some people are heading back, and you're just sitting there at tables are 8 to 10. This is a Rick Schwartz's traffic conference. And we were just sitting there, and he goes, congratulations. And I said, yeah. And he says the price, and he says, for a word. And that is the essence of what makes domaining, and especially high-end power domaining. I think I just invented that term. I invented that term. Trademark, copyright, use at your own risk, power domaining. It's a word, it's a word. You're buying a word. And, I've always remembered that comment, that's what happens. Someone's buying a word. So if you look at one-word dictionary domain names, the #1 place to invest, you're buying a word.
Paige,
go ahead.
What do you do when this kind of crazy amount of money comes in? Do
you try to grow it to 10 million and then 100 million.
Do you go bananas and invest it all?
Well, no, I mean, it had been a long time. It had been 3 or 4 years, and I had partners who were in the name with me.
Yes.
And I guess the decision we had to make is whether to stop, or whether to keep going. Okay. And at the time, we kept going. Now, that was the worst time to keep going. So I kept going in the face of 5 months later, I'm on a flight to Brisbane, Australia,
Okay.
for a domain name conference called Traffic Down Under. And this had been just a great conference, planned out with social events and everything. And then we had Lehman Brothers. And then we had Merrill Lynch going under. And then we had the financial crisis, where people weren't sure if the money in their money market fund was safe. And brokers on Wall Street were advising people to own farmland because they could always grow their food if the financial system collapsed. And that was the headline as I'm flying down to Australia for a domain name conference, hoping that virtual property and domain names would be a store of value.
And here they go,
domain names got hurt like everything. Now you could say, "Oh, what do you mean? You should have just stayed with them, Paige." I mean, domain. Look how they came back. But in a world where if you wanted liquidity, and dollars didn't have a lot of liquidity, you know what I mean? Money market fund assets didn't have a lot of liquidities. It was a tough run there from 07 to 09 for domain names. The same time that I needed was that.
How do you survive?
Put the pedal to the metal and bought more.
Did you let some really good domains go?
No, I bought more.
Prices? Just buy more.
More.
Okay.
Now in 02, I let a bunch of stuff go that I bought in 00 and 01. But I had tasted a great victory. So I looked at it and said, well, when the financial crisis happens and people come out of it, what better way to come out of it than to earn money with an online business? So I was very positive, and in hindsight, I was too positive on the power of individuals operating online businesses, thinking that they could do that with a very low cost of entry, some sweat and bones, sweat and effort, and that more and more people would have online businesses right now that they would be running. Because you didn't know what else was going to work. You know what I mean? Couldn't invest in stocks or bonds or real estate or anything. It was all tanking. Housing prices dropping 50% in most of the U.S. And so anyway, so I kept trying to build the infrastructure to sell domain names at scale, but it was a tough time. So
wow. But then so many opportunities came, yes? So you kept buying the names.
I was still early. I mean, I would have been better to sell everything and go on vacation for 10 years. Because it's only been in the last couple of years, at least from a U.S.-centric point of view, that the animal spirits of growing and buying and startups and a company having excess money where they want to buy a better domain name, that they've always wanted, that wasn't there for 7 or 8 years. You know what I mean? It was all about cutting costs. It was all about a lot of the entrepreneurs I know, a lot of the company owners I know, just keeping their employees paid, keeping everybody paid. There was no future, what do I have to do for the future? And in the midst of that, our domain name industry had a period of growth with the keyword search names. That was a big trend from like 10 to 2015. Tell me the search results. Tell me the cost per click. Multiply them together. That's what the name's worth. I'll pay 40% of that, And so that was a big trend. And then we got the Chinese numbers trend, which thing I never liked about the Chinese 3-letter number trend was I still believe to this day that it came about from hacking, from them being able to hack people's accounts at Network Solutions mostly, where they could call in. They could social hack by guessing the school they went to, guessing their mother's maiden name, telling the person that, some big long story. I think they were able to grab hold of these 3-letter domain names. And one of the reasons they were worth stealing or worth hacking was that there was a liquid market for them. You know what I mean? Where you could turn them around and not just be a long-term domain name investor that hoped a company came and bought it. But there was a liquid market to do it. And so, so that was obviously a huge trend. And when the number trend and the letter trend took over in 16, 17, and 18, you couldn't sell anything else to people, domainers. Couldn't sell anything to them. Because they're like, I can buy a 4-letter today for $900, and it's going to be worth $1,200 in a month. So they'd be like, I'm not going to buy anything else. Why would I buy anything else? This is absolute, and it did. It went up from a typical 4-letter to 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,400, 1,600, 2,000, whatever. You know what I mean? And unless you knew when that bell was going to ring that it's over, you know what I mean? It looked like that was the absolute greatest thing in the world because they had liquidity.
4 letters are awesome.
When you bring liquidity to an asset like a domain name that's normally not liquid, it changes everything. Now you picture that you could buy stuff today and sell it tomorrow. I can buy it cheap, offer somebody half of what it's worth and sell it for what it's worth. And I'm just going to make having nothing to do with domaining, just having to do with, cash management and that type of thing. So, but that safety net that you would get from thinking that your names were liquid was really captivating. And I think what's happening in the domain name market now is that people are trying to find those spots. Trying to find those spots where I believe most people that say they're investing in I believe that most people, when they say they're investing in domain names, they're not. It's like they're at a carnival and they're paying $1 for 3 baseballs to knock down some buckets. And if they do, they win the big prize. And if they don't, that's money out of my pocket. That's just, it's an expense. It's it was worth the entertainment of seeing if I could win a big stuffed animal where I don't even care about the money I spent on it. I think that's what's happening. They say they're investing, but really you're buying a lot of it. You're just hoping it happens to you. You're just hoping it happens to you. So people are looking for anything that has liquidity. So when I think about what are the strongest wholesale trends now, because I do a lot of wholesale business where I sell to other domain investors. I probably need to do, thousands of dollars every month where I'm buying names and selling them. So if I'm buying them from $40 to $80, I'm selling them for $150 to $300. But I need that turnover and to create.
So you are actually in the wholesale market part.
Absolutely, always have been.
Paige, if you could explain it, please.
Okay.
As the wholesale market, liquidation market, and then the end user market. If you could explain for the viewers who haven't got a clue how the domain industry works, please. Thank you.
So when we go to buy a name, we don't want anyone else competing with us. We want to buy it for the cheapest we can. Okay.
Yes.
We either want to hand register a domain name for $8. With that.
Yes, and
we want a coupon code to make it $4. And we want free privacy, a free one-page website, and I'll tell you later about Topcoin, where you can get frequent flyer rewards for buying your domain name. Anyway, or we want to bid in an auction, and we want to bid on the best domain names, but we don't want any competition. We don't want anyone to bid against us because we're us. I'm me. No one else should be there to buy. I want to be the only one. And the auction company, they, of course, want to make the most money they can. But I don't think they should do that. They should please me. They should make sure that there's no bidders there to bid against me. So we try to get names for $8 or $50 or $200 or a one-word dictionary name for $2,000 or $3,000 or $6,000. And the moment we buy it, close up the office for the day, walk out the door, and we say, I made $20,000 today. I bought this $2,000 dictionary word name. I know it's worth 20. If it was on Domain Sherpa, if it was on 27.be, they would say, boom, that's worth 20 grand. No problem. And they paid $2, so they have $2,000 less of cash than they started the day with, but they think they have a $20,000 asset. 20 grand, no problem. In fact, it might be worth more. It might be worth 100. So that's the retail market. you just put that name in your inventory at $20,000 of perceived value, or maybe 100. You bought it for 2,000, or you put a name in your inventory for 3,000 retail, and you bought it for $40. People try to get the thousands of dollars for their names, and then when they're tired or they need money or they got to get out, they say, "Oh, I'll sell it." And what you'll hear them say is, "Well, I know I want 5,000. I'd be willing to take 2,500 from another domainer on a quick sale." It's not going to get 2,500 from another domainer on a quick sale. It's going to get something very similar to what you paid for it, 40 to 60 to 80 to $120. So when you think about the same name, okay?
Oh,
it's a $3,000 retail. What's that?
Yes. Go on. Sorry. Yes.
The same name is a $3,000 retail name that's worth $150 wholesale. And if you need money today, you're going to get something around $150 to $250 for it. And if you can wait and have the capital and the money in the bank to wait for someone to come to you and say, "I want that name, how much is it?" you've got a chance to get 3,000. That's why I think the best domainers are ones that aren't doing it full time. They have another job that's paying their paycheck. They invest in inventory and they can wait to get those offers. You know what I mean? Now, don't wait with every name, but if you know it's a good name, wait. But for me, if I want to create liquidity and income, I've got to sell at the wholesale level. So what I'm betting on and what I've been able to do over the years is, because I watch the drop market, because I catch names at 7 different places, because I watch 8 other expired name services, and because I shop on 5 marketplaces, and because I have some ways to buy hand registration names that work out, then yes, a lot of times I am buying names at $8 to $10, selling them for $69, $79, $99. But on the whole, I create liquidity to pay me, for domaining, to make sure that I don't have to sell my best names at a low price because I need $4,000 this month. You know what I mean? So I got to go take a name that's worth 100,000 and sell it for 4 because I needed the 4, and that's about what you'll get. So I think for me, what I'm just basically, the customers that use me the most are the ones that can't spend all that time and effort looking at all the marketplaces to buy names. And so for them, if I can buy them and they got to pay a markup, they're like, "Well, Paige, can you just sell it to us for what you bought it for?" Well, no, you know what I mean? But for them, they haven't had to go through the effort, and they just get to look at my names at a buy it now, whether it's on domainoutlet.com or whether I'm selling on a name pros thread. They don't have to wonder if someone's going to outbid them. They don't have to wonder if the price is going to change. It's sitting right there for a price. And some people can't do business that way. They're like, "If I know Paige is making money, there's no way I can buy that name from him because I know he got it for $60. So there's no way I should pay 120 because he's making money. So I'm the sap and he's smart." A lot of people won't buy from me because of that. And I'm basically saying I need to have turnover, to pay for my income, to pay for my lifestyle. And so while I'm looking for awesome, big, super fantastic names, I'm seeing a lot of names that I know I can trade. And so those are the ones I sell. So I'll put up a list on Name Pros of maybe 300 names priced from $39, $49 up to $99. And I'll usually sell 20 or 30. And I've got a group of people that buy from me and I send them advance notice. I say, "Hey, just want to let you know I'm putting up a list." And buying off forums, I think, is one of the best ways to acquire domain names. You got to look through a lot of junk, but you're finding people that want to sell. Okay. Now you can go on Name Pros and put your terrible name for $5,000 on a thread, and you'll never get any activity. But if I've got 300 names and I've got 15 sold, people see that because they see that there's 27 responses, so they know that some people found stuff there.
And do you list them? Do you list them as the whole list, all 300 together?
Yeah. And I put GoDaddy appraisals on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, GoDaddy estimates of value. They're not appraisals. They are a hypothetical estimate of value that may or may not be correct. please do your own due diligence in buying domain names. Domain names may or may not make you money in the future. Here's my disclaimer.
So you are putting around 300 domain names a month on, let us say, Estibot, the name pros.
Name pros.
On name pros. I was thinking
usually twice a month,
and then twice a month. 2 times 150, or
it varies.
It varies, and then you sell around 20 of them.
If I do it twice, I'll sell 40 of them.
Okay, so around 40 of them. And usually you double the investment, yes? So you buy them for 60 and then, okay.
And it tells me 2 things. One, I know that not everyone's going to buy all my names. So I still have plenty of names that I'm waiting to make 100 times my money on or something like that. So for me, it just doesn't matter which ones sell. I've got 300 names that I bought at $60 that I want to sell for 3,000. And I sell 20 of them, I'm not even going to remember what those 20 names were. You know what I mean? Because I've got another 3,000 of them. You know what I mean?
Have you sold any names today?
No. Well, I don't have anything running at Name Pros, but no, I haven't sold. I got a couple inquiries.
Couple inquiries. On which names?
Some .la names.
Some .la names. Oh, we'll get to .la back.
Okay.
And what was the last domain name you sold?
I sold. Well, I'm tricky about saying what I sold. I'll tell you because to me the buyer is everything. And if I somehow said it and this was transcripted and someone saw it, to me, so I sold a vanity name, meaning it's either a first name or a last name, in .la for $1,000. So I won't tell you which one it was, but a lot of the business we do in .la are what are called vanity names, because you can still get your first name or your last name .la. So whether you're in Los Angeles or Latin America, or your company's last name is Smith or Jones, you're Smith.la, or your first name is Page. I'm Page.la. Go to Page.la, and those are still available. No way they're available in .com, but if you're a realtor in LA and your whole market's in LA, and you can get Matthews, because that's your last name, Matthews.la, that's pretty attractive because you only need it to work in LA. You don't need to pay the price to compete against every person that might want Matthews.com when all you need to do is market in LA.
I remember I had Stephanie.co.uk, and a friend of mine loved the name so much, he actually came over to my place. Negotiated the price, and for £1,000 I thought, okay, he's a friend of mine, here you go.
You got to do it. You didn't do bad on that name. He got what he wanted.
I didn't do bad.
You could tell he was serious, but no. I've had about 3. I had one in-person sale where I was negotiating with the guy, and he didn't tell me he lived an hour away from me, and he showed up with the cashier's check for $9,000 within 60 minutes. So that was kind of, and I still talk to him this day. He's become a good friend, but we always have that story together.
And did it work?
What's that?
And did it work? So he came up to you with 9,000 in cash, yes?
No, cashier's check.
Oh, cashier's check, okay.
It's tough to take cash.
Why?
Oh, banking regulations, all this. I don't want to go to my bank and deposit $9,000. They already don't know what I'm doing. If I tell them I invest in domain names, they probably think I'm a drug dealer. So if I show up with $9,000 cash, they'll know. All right, let me see how I can. How bad is it on your end with the sun in my eyes?
It is a bit sunny, but that's kind of fine. It should be a bit difficult for you. Do you want to move a bit on the side?
Well, I don't have a lot of area to move. You know what? We'll do this. No, that didn't work.
Okay, the sun is there.
Well, I thought this was going to be a great spot to do it. We tested all this out yesterday.
The connection is really good, and the camera is good, Paige. That's.
Can you move the sun? Can you move the sun down?
Well, I have to really beg.
There you go. No, this is bothering me. All right, everyone out there, thanks for your patience.
That's absolutely fine. And please do ask your questions. If you have your questions to Paige, go on, ask them, and we'll put them up on the screen, and Paige will answer them. And then, depending from the amount of questions, there will be the length of the live stream. So, good evening to everybody. 27.b has started live streams, and Paige Howe, one of the most positive guys and absolutely domain name professional, is here for you, for your enjoyment. Paige, and have you ever properly overpaid for a domain name?
No. Yes, all the time. Well, no, not all the time.
Can you give us?
I fell in love with city domain names.
City.
Yeah, U.S. cities.
Yes.
And I perceived them to be scarce, so I probably overpaid. But again, I thought they were going to be businesses. So I wrote recently on my blog at dn.biz, most dangerous name for a domain investor is one that you think you might develop.
Okay.
Because you overpay with the rationalization that I'm going to make it back, because even though it isn't worth that as a domain name, you convince yourself that you're an end user. You can afford to pay more because you're going to be operating a business on that name. And so that's what I thought I'd be doing.
Yes.
I thought we would have better technology because I'm not a coder and I'm not a creator. So I thought we would have what I call a city in the box type easy software where I could buy a city name, plug it in, have a directory, have a search, a search guide, local connections and everything. And so I thought it would just be a matter of, buying the city name when it was available, putting it on an operating platform, and then rinse and repeat and do it over and over again. So that's probably the area that I've overpaid in the most.
And the money-wise, what were those amounts?
Oh, by thousands, if not tens of thousands in some cases.
Were they .coms?
Yes. Yeah, .com is and was and where the liquidity is.
Which ones? Can you give us a sample of a domain name you have, a geo domain you have overpaid?
It would be too painful to say it in public. I'm giving you a lot of it. I've given you that I paid tens of thousands of dollars too much for city.com domain names. That's probably about as far as I'm willing to go.
Tens of thousands?
Yeah.
Is it really that bad? Still, that name could be resellable, no?
Well, I sold it for tens of thousands less than I bought it for.
So what was the loss? 25%?
Maybe a little more.
A little bit more. Was it painful to sell?
Only when people ask about it.
Do you visit that domain name?
No.
Do you visit it times for time? No.
Once I sell a domain name, it's gone. If it ever came back to my mind enough,
it is like an ex-girlfriend, Still.
No, that's probably a disservice to another human being. It's just that, the purpose of buying a domain name is to own it and sell it. And even if, you hopefully sell it for more money than you made, but you really can't use your cost to determine what a name's worth, because you'll probably hang on too long. If I bought a domain name for $1,000, and I will get to your question, the person who asked about monetizing, because I want to talk about monetizing. But if I bought a name for $2,000, and I got a good offer for $1,200, I thought that was about, it was a good offer for me to be able to reinvest that money, I'd sell it, even though I took a loss. I'd sell it if I bought it for $4,000 and had to sell for $2,000. Because as long as they don't make me give back the money when I bought a name for $25 and sold it for $3,000, then I would be myopic to think that I could only make money in domain names and I could never lose money. So there's no difference to me about whether I got $3,000 and I paid $6,000 for it, whether I got $3,000 or I paid $100 for it. it's was that a good price compared to the realistic prospects for that name in the future? And so even though it's tough, I've had some names I paid $8,000 or $9,000 for that I sold for $2,000. But for me, it's like, as long as they don't make me give back the $3 or $4 million I've made selling thousands of domain names for 100 times what I bought for them, then if it's creating liquidity for me to go buy something better, I'm going to sell that name. So for me, selling is all about replacement value. Can I take that money?
Okay, that's a good thought, yes.
And put it to work. But anyway, I want to get to the question about monetizing.
Yes, so here was the question. Thank you, Tom.
Tom Kloss, I think I'm saying that right?
Yes.
Unless that's an I.
From Facebook,
Do you monetize domains? If yes, how? And is it working? Also, how many domains have you developed? Well, those are good questions. I'll take the second one first. I wish I've developed more domain names, but here's the two problems I've had with development. You pay somebody who you think gets your vision. You lay everything out. You tell them what you want them to do, and they show up and they deliver something that is completely opposite of what you wanted. And so I've been doing this for 20 years. So that got me off paying people because it just never worked. So then when I'm developing them myself, I get to those little stupid places where I just can't get over the hump, and it stops me because I have so many other names to manage. So I wish I would have developed more domain names. Those domain names that I've even the simplest thing, putting an affiliate program on one domain name, and I made $200 to $300 a month from doing that. Even just that little bit of level of development, I thought 15 years I had to do that 15 years ago. And I think the same opportunity exists where I believe in the future that, yes, we should develop our domain. Now, right now, I only monetize them with parking. In the days when parking was working for everybody for millions of dollars a year, I was the one guy that didn't care about parking. I made my money selling domain names. Now we've switched back to no one was making any money in parking, so they all became domain resellers, right? And it was all about the landing page and having your price in the right spot so people would buy. But I think we've come to the end of this. So I've gone back to parking all my domain names. And what I'm looking for there is every domain name I own, I've moved to one parking company for the month of January. And I have to identify, the top 20 to 25 names that are earning more than $3 to $5 per month. And you may not realize it, but earning $3 to $5 a month is a pretty good parking name. Now, if you bought a one-word noun or you bought, stocks.com, you're going to do a lot better than that on your parking. But if you're just trying to find a name that either somehow has some links pointing to it that bring traffic or some type-in traffic and it monetizes, the only way to do it, I believe, is you have to just put all your names with a parking company and see which ones consistently do it. And then you take those names and you put them in a separate place that says the purpose I own these names is to park them and earn revenue. And there is no better domain name to own than a name that earns at least 2 times its reg fee. That way you have some buffer. Because you can keep that asset forever. So right now I'm monetizing with parking. I use ParkLogic. And that's my goal, is to take all my names. Now, I probably only do on 6,000 names, $200 a month. That's how bad parking's got. I wish we had better solutions. I can't believe we don't have better solutions.
What is the traffic?
No
Couldn't
idea.
you sell pop on those? Couldn't you sell traffic? So they should generate some traffic, these domain names.
Right, but should doesn't make me any money.
Now that's the thing. Once you have 6,000 domain names, so let us say. So how much traffic does it generate? You could sell
no idea. I have no idea. I wouldn't trust the number if they gave it.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is, what was I saying? Oh, so going forward, what you're going to see me write about at dn.biz is alternative methods of monetizing your domain names. And I believe between affiliate programs and specific targeted ads that we should all be doing better. Because we've all given control of monetizing our domain names to Google. And that's the one company that competes with us to steal any traffic that might come through the browser to our domain names.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that's the future. But it's so addictive because it's so easy to upload a spreadsheet of a bunch of names and make $40 a month for not doing any work. And if someone says you're making $40 a month for doing no work, but if you invest $50, you could double your traffic income, most domainers won't do it.
And regarding the same question, are you in partnerships with maybe with some domain names? Are you working?
I'd like to be, but as I mentioned earlier, we haven't had the animal spirits where people were looking to grow. And people, I thought we got really close in 07 and 08 to having some of the lead gen companies come in.
Okay.
There's so much waste and fraud in the monetizing business that for those of us who think we have really good assets, okay, say I have an asset, Pittsburgh mesothelioma attorney, this cancer disease. In the US, you see it advertised all over the place. The click is like $97 if someone clicks it. I would rather have my domain name wait around all year to get one click for someone who's actually looking for a mesothelioma, I can't even say the word, attorney in Pittsburgh. But Google may say, no, we want to put a bunch of other stuff on that page. That may make us 40 cents or 30 cents. So, yeah, I'd like to have, in my perfect world, every domain name that I bought today, I would have it with its most optimal monetization method before I went to bed that night. That's the goal that I'll be talking about this year on DN.biz. Is if you're going to hold it for a year and you just paid whatever price you paid for the domain name or whatever price you paid to renew it, you paid it $8 today, you better start monetizing that name tomorrow. Most people wait until the month before it renews or after it renews and say, oh, I'll sell it, and they can't. So I've got to get really good. Now, I think there's products and services out there for us. We just haven't found them yet, and no one's walked people through how to do them. Yesterday or the day before, you were going to have a guest on the show, Adam Dick.
Yes.
Adam and I did the Domain Sherpa show for years. Adam's DN forum is how I learned most of what I learned early in domaining. I know Adam's had a bunch of problems with a lot of things out there, but the number one thing I always had, my problem with Adam, is he was right when he said your domain should be businesses. But I thought that sometimes he painted a false picture of how easy and successful it would be to make thousands of dollars per month from one domain name, when I think it would have been enough to make hundreds of dollars or maybe even tens of dollars. That had to be the first step for people. Take a name from doing nothing to earning enough so you can renew it forever. Exactly. And then build upon that. I think that maybe there was a false picture painted of how successful you could be with no effort. And so I'm still a homer and very positive on domains and positive on bulk development. Everyone that tried bulk development, they thought it all meant my name is going to rank on Google so high that I'm going to make so much money. But we have to set our expectations lower so that we'll be successful at earning $10 a month, $30 a month. But more than that, you're going to see when I ran this affiliate program on one of my websites, you get an email that says someone just bought $63 worth of shirts from your website and you made $6, 10%. So if I look at my emoji domain names and I have the Jamaican flag, and I build a site that lets me have Jamaica shirts, Jamaica soccer, Jamaica pins, Jamaica cups, and I can make $30 a year, right? And I could do that with minimal effort. I've got to do that.
I want the British flag.
Did you sell it? You do. I bet you do. A lot of people do. All right.
How much did you say you sold it? We'll get to the next question in a second.
We'll talk about that later. We don't know each other well enough yet. Okay.
But you said that you sold it, yes?
Yeah, yes, but I forget what I sold.
I would give probably my Yeah, I would exchange my teens.co.uk immediately for that, for the British flag. And I've got some good offers on.
I'd recommend that the seller sell it for $8,000 US. Think about it. He may not. He may say he wants 200, but anyway. So it's a special. It's a special time. Anyway, I hope that answered your question. I monetize now with parking.
Yes.
Because we don't have any other option. But I really want to help domain investors by not just telling you, hey, you can go to this site and monetize your domain names. And you go to that site and this company says, our product's going to do it all for you with no effort. I actually want to show you what I did with a domain name. Like a Jamaican flag.
How much are you asking for? You see, I'm all closed up now. How much are you asking for a $? Also, I'm really good.
2,500 US a month. 2,500. See, I just made that name up. You asked me before, how do I decide what?
So $2,500.
$2,500. You can be the $.WS emoji.
God, and you still haven't sold it.
Nope.
To all the watchers, or maybe live watchers, or what, if you ever wanted to create a classified ads website, and I do have a classified ads website, outlived.co.uk. Horrible name. It isn't okay, but still bad. I'm chasing another name for it.
Orange slice, anybody?
Contact Page Howe. Take the name right now. 2,500 for $.WS.
Price is good for 48 hours.
And you can put yourself on the map along with Craigslist. You can put billboards. Just now when we do imagining, just anybody.
Right. It's about me, Helmut. This isn't about you. It's about me.
Now it's about you and your domain name. You can put up billboards. All you have to do.
Let me do one more thing on monetization.
Yes, sorry.
I think monetization is heading in the right way for domain investors.
Okay.
Because forever, Google was the only choice to park through, not Google, to park through a parking provider is all they could ever say. And your other choice was...
Is it like this? Look, this is a potential buyer. I'm serious. I know the guy. He's the owner of a vape shop in Ireland, of a small chain of 5 or 6 vape shops in Ireland.
Right.
Is it like this?
I don't know what you mean.
Can you see the comment on the screen?
Someone's asked me about the $.
Yes, is that the $, the emoji?
No, mine isn't the symbol. It's green. It's a symbol. It's let me find my emoji on my smartphone.
Let us see.
Yeah, it's green.
Can you show it?
I got to do share my screen. I keep forgetting that.
Yes. And if somebody wants to buy it live, 10% discount?
No discount. Add 20%. All right. Oh, that's right. Hold on. I got to find the right window.
Have you got any vaping? Okay. Okay, let's.
Okay, now I got to go to the page. Okay, there we go.
Yes.
There we go.
Oh, this one, green $.
Yep.
I'm trying to find it here.
Oh, so yeah.
It is so far. So many.
So for me, a lot of what you're going through now is like on the faces. Any of the faces that are on the top row are more valuable because they're easier to get to.
Yes.
For a lot of people, especially kids, they use emojis so much that their favorite ones are always right there on their own screen. So they're not always looking for them because their favorite ones are right there.
I actually can't find the green dollar sign. I've always struggled the page with finding emojis. Kind of always wanted the search bar or maybe a mic. No, I can't see it here. Oh, the page is gone for some reason. So good evening, or good afternoon. Page will be back. Page will be back. Page will be back in a minute. Let us see what happened. The connection got interrupted. So good evening, and we are over here at 27.be. We do plan to do live interviews with the leading domain name investors and influencers. And I will personally enjoy every.
I was share screen and I typed the emoji into the screen that I was doing the broadcast. So
okay.
Now I'm going to do share screen, tips. That's
the best it is to, yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back. All right. Now I'm going to stop sharing screen. So back to monetization, because I think it's a great question, and it's where I think we need to go, because all the guys who were in domaining early had traffic income to support their domain portfolios, and there was no doubt that their names were worth money, because every asset that's worth anything except gold, its value is based upon the future revenue stream it can provide. So when you have a future revenue stream tied to your asset, you're not relying simply on its hardcore value, and once you sell it, it's gone. You earn the money each year from parking, and you always have an asset that's worth some multiple of your parking revenue. So I believe if in the next 5 years we can turn around the equation of parking revenues going down, down, down to up, 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 that'll change the prospects for many domainers. Because it was nice when I used to get a check for $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 a month, first of every month. And that allowed people to do what? What do you think domainers did with their parking revenue?
They bought more domains.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they parked them straight away.
And so I think, but it's so confusing for me, because the second thing that I think about parking, I'll talk about this on some discussion panels, I think, upcoming, is the stats that you can believe, you can't believe.
Okay.
Because someone could make up stats about their domain, or they could be sending traffic to it by buying ads. And then once you buy it and don't buy ads, you get no more traffic.
Okay. Yes. So there can be some bad players. Yes.
So you need to find a trustworthy seller. But the problem is, a trustworthy seller is also usually a smart seller. Okay, we don't have too many honest people that are dumb. I think smart people want to be honest because they plan to be in the business for months and years, going forward. And you aren't if you keep selling traffic portfolios that don't earn what they're going to do.
And once you destroy your reputation, yes.
So the ones that are real look like they're priced too high, and the ones that are fake are priced low because they appeal to your greed, that even if the guy is faking, I'm getting it for 2 times revenue, and this is going to be a winner. And so you throw out all your logic in your decision making, and you pay with the prospects that, even though it's kind of weird and kind of soft and ever, and you don't know whether to trust it, you buy it, and then most of the time you find out it doesn't work. So where I found most of the businesses done in parking is trusted sellers dealing with trusted buyers. What I mean by that is, someone can be a good buyer of domain names, can get them parked, can get them set up, and present the portfolio in a good way that shows what it's doing. But their purpose is to sell it, not hang around for the next 10 years to get the revenue. So the idea is to find people like that. And then if you are a person like that, that's constructing a 40 or 50 name portfolio that does $70 or $80 a month, then you want to find buyers who do want to put their capital to work to earn a return on their capital over the next so many years. And they want to be able to know that the last portfolio they bought from you is working out pretty good. So therefore, they're more trustworthy to buy the next one. There's a caveat to every story. You got to be careful for the seller who sells you a little one that's good, a medium one that's good, and then sells you a huge one and it's terrible. So anyway, there's a lot to learn out there. But I think that if I'm a contrarian and I want to look at a part of domaining that most of the new investors that have read an ebook that said you can buy a name for $10 and sell it for $1,000 don't know about, it's parking. And the guys that really do know about parking, they've gotten stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So you'll see, like Andrew Rosner just started a new newsletter that's for people that understand the value of traffic names. And so they may be names that you'll look at and you'll say, I wouldn't pay $1 for that name. But based upon their backlink profile, based upon the characteristics of the traffic that people know is going to that name, they see some of those names that you wouldn't pay $1 for as slam dunk $30,000 domain names. You know what I mean? So one of the ways that people, in another area besides flipping domains that people can learn about and get strong at, is this area of traffic domain names. How to find them, how to buy them, and then how to monetize.
High authority domain names as well. Yes, for
the
SEO, high authority domain names
exactly.
for the SEO purposes. Absolutely.
Now, I would be a fool to jump in to a forum and hear the words high authority, and someone says this is a high authority name, and without knowing anything about it, pay someone $5,000 or $6,000 because they told me it was a high authority name. You have to educate yourself on
absolutely.
What are the things like that. So what I'm not encouraging is everyone just to switch over there, because everyone you'll start seeing everyone will say that their name's a high authority name. You know what I mean? Because they know that's what people want. So, but I am trying to pay attention to it. But I think because I buy names in very specific areas, I think it's impossible to watch every trend. You know what I mean? Well, when I go look to buy domain names at GoDaddy auctions, if you're trying to buy brandables, geos, high pay-per-click names, vanity names, short names, dictionary names, lead gen names, you know what I mean? Trying to stay on top of all those themes at all price levels. I'll buy a cheap name or I'll buy a $5,000 name. It's hard. So I've brought most of my buying into specific areas, and that's where I feel like I'm poised. Where if I can monetize one, I can monetize 400 or 500. You know what I mean? In the same place. And then if I can sell one, I can be good at a sales process that can sell 400 or 500. So for me, that's what that's for.
Okay, and now we have a question like this. Do you understand it?
Do you ever sell domain bundles like name?
Like name.com.
Yeah, net.
So that would probably apply that.
I think most buyers, and I just had a client that I built a website for do this yesterday. He said, don't I need to buy the net and the org and the variation with the plurals and all that stuff? And they convince themselves that their project is so valuable that they need to buy everything. And then 5 years later, they drop it. So as of right now, I use a different strategy. I don't package them together when I sell them because I want to get the comms sold, done, money in the bank. And then I want to be able to go back a month or two later and say I also have the net and maximize my price for that name. Now, if I thought that selling them the net and the org could close my comm at a higher price, I'd do it. So I think it's a good strategy to think about. I will tell you what's more important, in my opinion, than having the net and the org is having social media handles of the name you're selling.
Absolutely.
And because it's hard to do, you won't hear anyone talking about it, because even me, when I say it, I'm like, well, I'm saying this, and most of the names I have, I don't have the social media handles for, or someone's taken them. But if I was starting right now and I wanted to sell brandable domain names, and I bought Dipple or Zoopal or Dip or something like that, I would look and see if I could get the social media handles, because I think that's much more valuable to offer. As it's good to keep something in the back, or even when you think you've negotiated the price with the customer, they go to pay and they're just not sure, or they say their partner has some different thoughts, or couldn't they get it for a best price? And it's nice to have something in the background to be able to say, well, let me ask you a question. What if I included the social media handle? And most of the times they'll say, I never thought about that. And they'll realize that if they bought the name and they had to offer someone $2,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 for the social media handle, that would change their pricing. So if you have it and the name's worth more than $10,000 and you want to keep the net and the org, I think that probably makes sense, and try to sell them together. But if you don't, I don't think it's a problem.
Okay. And here is a thought.
There we go. Andres, if I said that right, what do you do if one day all domain names will be replaced with matrix code and redirection? So I do believe there are some chinks recently in the ICANN DNS armor. I think because of ICANN's greed in the .org deal and the new .com deal, they've announced to people that there's billions of dollars to be made in operating domain name registries and domain name systems, and they've drawn new entrants. So whereas before I wouldn't be diversified, in 2001 I did investigate the alternate root space. Now I think I don't know as much about the matrix and redirection that you're talking about. I am doing some work with the blockchain and domains on the blockchain. But I think even though early adopters think trends happen fast, if you look in the US, for instance, at the battle between cable television and satellite, it's taken 30 years and both technologies are still being used. So I am still 85% .com, and I would be more if I didn't have .la and emojis, you know what I mean? But I don't think com's going to go away, but I am starting to look at some of the chinks in the armor, and the blockchain DNS, and the one that I'm looking at right now is Unstoppable Domains, I think has a chance. So I may put some of my poker chips on the roulette table down on 00 and learn about it, not knowing if Unstoppable is going to be the victor or .eth or something else, but to be aware of it. And you've got some experience in the blockchain?
Well, some.
If we turn your camera around, is it okay to tell them what they'd see?
Some minors. Paige, have you have you ever thought of your own extension? Come on.
Page. Yeah.
Dot page. Oh, actually, yes. So page can be.
So Google runs .page. I thought it was nice that they did that in tribute to me. It is a live TLD. Thank you, Andres. And I'll now, I've written down the words matrix and redirection based upon his question. That'll be exciting to look into.
So, and have you ever seriously explored the possibilities of owning your own extension?
Well, I tried to own .kids. I applied for .kids, KIDS. There would be a safe space for kids on the internet. And I applied for that with ICANN back in 2001. I was apparently number 8, and they only took the top 7. This is when they gave out .biz, .info, .museum, and some other ones. And so when I didn't get that, and they said, well, we'll be giving out new ones soon, who knew that would be 13 years? I'm glad I didn't keep paying my overhead. I looked at alternate routes. I looked at operating a CCTLD under kids.ws. And then I went to the I went to Hawaii to talk to representatives from the island of Kiribati, which is .ki, and I was going to try to manage .ki to be .kids, a safe space for kids on the internet. So when you say, have I ever thought about doing my own? But my experience with ICANN was so revolting during that period that I said I will never put my future or my life or my business in their hands by applying for new TLD. So I did not apply for .kids. Now I realize that my whole portfolio is based upon ICANN, who in my opinion have proven that they are out for themselves and no one else, even though they're a public benefit corporation. So yes, I've now had to look at, what are the effects of what ICANN's doing on my own portfolio? And right now they're not good. My costs are going to go up 7% a year.
Okay, that's interesting. .la.
Yep.
Which country extension is it?
It's the country code for Laos.
For Laos. And it is actually highly adapted for Los Angeles, yes?
Yes, it's been a part of the marketing plan since about 2001, 2002. It's very good for the country of Laos, I believe. They're able to monetize, in essence, a national asset. The TLD is actually owned by the country of Laos, and we market it. And I run for the company that markets it globally. I manage the marketing in Los Angeles. And so in the last 3 to 4 years, we've been able to grow, a pretty substantial group of websites. Let me share my screen. And we're starting to get really good acceptance, in LA, because it is so easy to say .la. It instantly identifies you with, let's see if I can do this, with the #1 city in the world, because LA has changed a lot. LA is now the #1 city for style, for fashion. So this is a map we do that shows all the websites in Los Angeles that use the .la. Not all. We're building this about 50 names a week. So we can show that you're not alone, that other people are doing it, and you have like 99% of the names taken in .com you can get in .la. So whether it's your first name or your last name or the business category you're in, or brandable, or whatever you want to talk about in domain names, if you're only marketing to Los Angeles, then you don't need to buy the complete domain name. If you're this gym here, this is usafitness.la. So if you're usafitness.la and your fitness stores are in Los Angeles, you don't need necessarily, if you weren't able to get usafitness.com, you can run with usafitness.la, and it says that you're local, because fitness in Los Angeles is completely different than fitness in the rest of the world. It's a much higher level of fitness, and so LA is a very unique city.
Any nightclubs?
Yes, let's see. Where's
your category? And where can we see them?
That's at ilove.la.
ilove.la, okay.
Let me see here. Let me blow this up. And so what I do is I do the map, and I do different articles each week showing different companies that are using .la. And so we have restaurants, we have Purvey.la, curiously curated provisions, Purvey.la. So, it kind of rhymes, Purvey.la. It's a one word. One of the other things we do is we have a Pinterest page that shows all of our sites. So here's cannabis.la. Locally grown.la is for things. Selfie Vintage, Food Oasis. So a lot of people have jumped on board and said, yeah, this makes sense for us. Art.la. I forget what that one is. Art.la, modern housing. So there's a big trend of tiny housing and things like that. And so what we've done is I've tried to build community around people using .la. Let me see back where we are. About people using it. But right now it's had to be hand-to-hand combat. me going to meetups and trade shows and things like that and telling people the story, and then they get it. And when they go to get a domain name, their choice might be to be, healthyfoodla.com, or they can be, and they had to put the Y on it for healthy because Health Food LA was taken, or they can be just healthfood.la. And before someone even goes to their website and sees them in the search engine results and sees healthfood.la, that's conveying the credibility that, yes, they're about LA because their domain name is .la. They're probably a big company, or they're probably successful because they got a really good name early. And so it starts conveying things when people are still making the decision, should I click on this link? And so that's what we help brands do, is give them that little boost when people are deciding, should I even go to this website? And then, especially on mobile devices, you're going to have a shorter name. So as much as everyone uses Google, now Google tries to trick you and do this other stuff. So on mobile, people are going back to direct navigation on their phone. And instead of having to get a 11, 12, 13 character.com, you're getting page.la or go.la. Or if you're a law firm and you're Warner, Jenkins, and Thompson, you're WLT.la. Your email address is super short, WLT.la. So that's what we're seeing, is people are appreciating the usefulness and the branding of being associated with .la.
And you were saying we. So who operates this I love.la?
There's a company called .la Marketing.
.la Marketing, okay.
They're the company, and then it's run on the CentralNIC platform. CentralNIC, along with Key Systems, who they merged with, has probably become one of the biggest registry operators out there, operating tens of new TLDs and country codes and everything. So Key Systems, CentralNIC, or whether it's CentralNIC, Key Systems, I think it's probably Key Systems, CentralNIC. They've bought so many companies in so many different areas. They run the registry, so it's robust, it's secure. We actually have some technology transfer that's been made to run part of it in Laos, so that they've got the benefit of doing that and things like that. And I think it's been a good, sustainable, positive thing for both registrants, the registry, and for the home country. So I think it's a good model.
Do you have some? Are you a partner of the at the company, or employed by them, or a consultant?
I'm a consultant to the company.
Okay.
In 2007, I bought a bunch of .la domain names. I first saw .la on a bus in 2002 and loved it. I was born in Los Angeles, lived in Los Angeles, love Los Angeles, and I really love .la. So that's why I always wanted to get I love .la. And so I have a lot of names, and I kept encouraging them, or thought what I thought some of the things they could be do to market better. And so working for them has allowed them to have a local presence in LA, where I've met with the mayor's office, I've met with the County Economic Development Commission, met with the Chamber of Commerce to try to put a face to this thing called .la. You know what I mean? Yes. And obviously domain investors don't always have the best thing, but we're members of the tourism board. And so we've tried to be a good local citizen, because just like the mayor is promoting Los Angeles for companies to come relocate there and all kinds of stuff, I'm promoting it for the domain name. So I was able to go with the Chamber of Commerce to Washington, D.C. to talk about Los Angeles, meet with some senators and some congressmen and talk about and just espouse the benefits, because all the stuff that's happening in the U.S. and globally about different cultures, different peoples living together is all happening in Los Angeles first. You know what I mean? So when you talk about the trends that come in fashion or food or technology startups or solutions to climate change, a lot of that stuff is happening in Los Angeles. And a lot of those companies are realizing that using a .la lets them be, I don't think they're climate change.la, but there's a, maybe it's reduced carbon or carbon, there's a whole incubator in the city of Los Angeles near downtown where they're developing new technologies. They use .la, and so it's catching on with those communities, as well as just the average contractors, doctors, restaurants especially have taken with it. Real estate projects, there's a big building called the Pencil Factory that used to actually make pencils, and now it's like 700,000 square feet of office buildings and restaurants and everything. They use pencilfactory.la. So anyway, it's nice to be part of something's growing because of making the local connection. I think the same thing could happen with CCTLDs if
like
they were,
for example. Okay, but returning, just returning to.
so
Sorry,
let me do one more thing. So
yes.
what I've tried to do with .la is I've tried to do what's called TLD management. Make a case for managing and promoting a TLD like .la, like I'm doing with emoji domain names, like I used to do with .tv, because we've never seen that done until the new TLDs came out, because VeriSign doesn't spend any money marketing because they can't afford to have the profits lost, because they make $1 billion selling .coms, and their stock is worth 27 times that $1 billion. So if they invested $1 million in marketing, that would cut their market cap as soon as they did it. So we haven't seen that, and they haven't needed to. But I think one of the things I think is going to happen in the next 10 years is you're going to have to work a little harder to have your top level domain name be successful. You won't just be able to let the registrars do the marketing. So by doing this with .la, I'm able to build up, some of the skills in promoting a top level domain name, which I think will be useful for other top level domain names in the future.
And a question, so regarding DLA, I've been always curious, as extensions like these, when they are that's even better. That's
there
even better. Have you? So what about the on the level of governments? Are there some contracts just to protect the businesses that are using those names, or something? And have you been to Laos yourself?
I have not been to Laos. The company that manages it has a long relationship with them. And your first question was about.
I would be really afraid to use .la, as maybe somebody else at Laos would. So, for example, I would have a nightclub, and I would call it earthquake.la, for example. And then there is that brand in Laos, and they are called Earthquake as well. And they would take me to the court in Laos for the trademark purposes or something, and they would take the name or something.
It doesn't seem like
working with .com is one thing, but top country domain names, those can be tricky.
Well, I hear what you're saying. ICANN is a group of contracts, and you're trying to imagine a potential scenario that hasn't happened and will require a number of things to happen wrong.
Yes.
And
or they would say, yes. Sorry. Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if you applied that same series of fearful transactions to anything, if you would ever buy any domain, because ICANN itself is subject to different contracts and things like that. So if that's your concern, then you should not buy earthquake.la. But I'll tell you, someone else will, because of the track record, because of the protections that are put in place, and because of the revenue that you're giving Laos. You know what I mean? So now you imagine that someone is going to do something, change all the rules, change all the rules in a way that would make no one want to register the country code that you're talking about in the future. So yes, they can probably do that if their goal was to torpedo the registrations and revenue that they got from their top level domains.
Or keep using LA for themselves, for their own nation. So a new king would come in or something, energetic type of person, they would change the legislation. And let me give you an example. .eu, Europe. So after the Brexit, no British. Like if you live in Britain, you will not be able to renew your .eu. You are not, it is not legal. So
Right. So
.eu
now,
can be held only
now
by
not
residents
only
of
are you
European
talking
Union.
about the risk of a CCTLD, you're talking about the risk of a multi-country
Absolutely.
collaboration of something.
And
Now
I've
I
been
would say
always
that
curious
from
as I sorry.
there's more risk from the start with .eu that has not proven itself to even be a thing that could then be a TLD. I don't know. I think that's more risk than any individual country code. But if not, it's up to you. I think you're imagining a series of transactions that would require, if you place yourself in the whole world, you know what I mean? If you picture that there's one person in Laos that's the king who is out for you specifically and your name, I think you can make a case for what you're talking about, and you shouldn't do it. But if you're talking about a country code TLD with tens of thousands of registrations, that's going to risk all of that because one guy wants one nightclub in Laos to have your name, then I think you just have to decide where to place your chips.
I was just curious, are there some contracts or some agreements between Los Angeles and Laos regarding using the domain names? Just
well,
for the security
I think it goes beyond that. I think when you have a contract with your registrar, and you have the guaranteed annual right to renew that top level domain name, that's with the country of Laos.
Of course, yes.
Whether or not I do marketing is between independent companies. But when you when you buy your domain name, you're buying it from the country, from in essence the official the official operator, which is the technology division of the country of Laos. So,
how is the market of LA? So you said that there are still many vacant names. Are they available for handage or
yes,
aftermarket?
I think no. We try to keep. We have a lot of premium names, which we resell, for thousands of dollars. But we also have a lot of very good availability. One of the reasons is our domains are expensive. They're about $35 to $50 a year. Okay. And that makes them very hard to hoard if you're not using them. And so I think we have very good availability because in many cases, someone hasn't, if you want to own a name for 10 years, that's $350. You probably should be using it if you're going to spend that much. And so unless it's a, super great name. So most of the time when I go to trade shows and I say, hey, let's look it up, I think that's available. Now, if it's realestate.la, it's going to be taken. But if someone says that they market in Beverly Hills and they want to be beverlyhillshomes.la, it's probably available. If their name is Wendy Williams, maybe wendy.la is taken, but Wendy Williams.la is probably not taken. WendyWilliams.com is probably taken in 7 or 8 extensions, ComNet, Org, and a bunch of other ones. So we really do find that most people, for their specific business name, the .la is usually available. For generic words and vanity names, maybe not.
And what are some premium names that you have? LA ones?
Like food.la and business.la and
business.la.
And gold.la. So again, I have a motivation to make .la work both for the registry and for my own portfolio. And so, it means I believe in it too. So hey, I think we may have run up against the clock. If we have any other questions, I'd love to bring them in. But
that's awesome. And so there was a thing like this, and it definitely the 2 hours are over.
Yeah. So his basic question is, Google has so much power and the future seems like they're going to implement a lot of new things. Absolutely. I worry about Google all the time. Like, go to the name and they'll be redirected to a matrix code, but with a changeable name. So I know that they tried to move domain names out of the search results, but it looks like that was temporary and they put them back in. I assume that they're going to do everything they can to own every spot of the internet. But what I will tell you where there's hope is I believe Google, and I started writing about this 3 years ago, is not delivering the goods to customers. They are not delivering search results to customers anymore. They are a proprietary app that's delivering you the way Google wants to deliver you to restaurants, travel tickets, real estate, and everything. And the more they come, in my opinion, proprietary, they're going to lose their pervasiveness, and someone else is going to out Google. Now, it may take 10 years or 5 years or 3 years, but I do not believe that they are solving the need of the customer. Sometimes I've called them $100 billion, $300 billion link to Wikipedia. It's about what they are in some cases, except for the things that they're trying to sell. But yes, there is a risk that Google will take over. But as big as they are, they don't control everything. So, and they can't, because if they did control everything, there'd be more antitrust against them. But they can still go back and say, we only handle 3% or 9% or 11% or 6% of the web. So could they really institute something that would take over for everybody else and not still be built on the basic DNS? So yeah, I think it's good to look into that. Now, the one place that I do play along with Google, you know what? I'll leave that as a bonus, as a tease for our next interview, Helmut, is the one place that I am playing along with Google. So we'll leave that. If you have me back, I'll start with that.
Okay. And for the last, your personal advice to a new domainer.
What you think is scarce is not as scarce as you think. You walk into our industry right now, you cannot duplicate the results of other people. If you see that someone bought a domain name for $100, you couldn't have bought it for $100 at auction. You would have had to bid 110. They would have bid 120. You would have had to bid 130. They would have bid 140. So you cannot buy where you see something was purchased by someone else, because you may have taken the auction from $100 to $1,000. Secondly, you cannot sell where you see other people has sold names, because if it's to an end user, that end user is now gone. They don't need a name in this area to pay this price. Now, if you're dealing with commodities like one-word names, four-letter names, and things like that, yes, you can have a market value. I believe one of the fallacies of the other ebooks out there and the pitches and the rah-rah stuff is you cannot duplicate the results that you see. Now, you can on the stock market. There's a lot of shares of Apple stock, and you can buy it here, you can buy it here, you can buy it here. But in domain names are different. So I would say that when you realize it's tough, everything you want to buy, you can't buy. And everything you can buy, you don't want. That's when your domaining starts. And it's what you do after that that'll determine whether you're successful. So that's my advice to you domainers out there.
Thank you, Paige, and see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you.